The ceremony was about to begin. I looked toward the seating area and felt my heart sink. My parents stood against the back wall, still holding their modest gift, unsure where they belonged. Every single chair was taken by his family, his aunts, his uncles, cousins I'd never met. Rows that were meant to be shared, claimed entirely by them. My mother caught my eye and smiled, trying to appear proud, but I saw the hurt she was trying to hide. My father's jaw tightened, his silence louder than any protest. I walked to his mother. "Excuse me," I said politely. "Could some of your family move? My parents need seats." She looked at me, then at my parents. Her lips curled into a smirk. "They look poor," she said coolly. "They should be used to standing. My name is Iris Yang. I'm 26. And in that moment, I heard my future mother-in-law insult the two people who had sacrificed everything for me. "That's incredibly rude," I said. She smiled, faintly. "It's honest." I turned to my fiancé. Devin stood laughing with his groomsmen. "Devin, your mother just—" "Not now, Iris," he interrupted. "We're about to start. She insulted my parents. They're standing because your family took all the seats," his cousin chuckled. "Well, do they have money or not?" My face burned. "That's not the point." Devin grabbed my arm, hard. "Stop making a scene," he muttered. "I'm asking for respect." He pulled me aside, his expression turned cold. "Watch your mouth." "Or what?" The slap came without warning, sharp, loud, right across my face, in my wedding dress, in front of 200 people. The room fell silent. Then his family laughed. His mother clapped slowly. "That's how you handle her son." My parents rushed forward, but I raised my hand, stopping them. I looked at Devin, really looked at him. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." He laughed. "What are you going to do? Run home crying?" I pulled out my phone and made one call. "It's me. I need you. Now." Devin smirked. "Who are you calling? Your daddy?" "No," I said calmly. "My brother." His smile faded. "So what?" I met his eyes. "So you should have asked why." The hall buzzed with uneasy whispers. Guests shifted in their seats, pretending not to stare, while Devin's family continued laughing as if nothing had happened. My cheek still burned, but I refused to touch it. I would not give them the satisfaction. Devin adjusted his cufflinks with a careless smirk. "You're overreacting, Iris." "It was a joke." "A joke?" I repeated softly. "You slapped me." His mother stepped forward, her voice dripping with condescension. "You embarrassed our family. Devin simply corrected you." "Corrected." The word echoed like an insult carved in stone. My father clenched his fists, his face flushed with restrained fury. "We should leave," he said quietly. "No," I replied, my voice steady. "Not yet." Across the hall, guests murmured behind raised programs and champagne glasses. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked entertained. Devin sighed impatiently. "Can we move on? The ceremony is delayed because of you." I met his gaze calmly. "There won't be a ceremony." Laughter rippled through his relatives. "Oh, please," his cousin scoffed. "What are you gonna do?" Before I could answer, the grand doors at the back of the hall opened. A hush fell over the room. Several black vehicles had pulled up outside, their engines silent, their presence commanding. Moments later, a group of sharply dressed men entered, their movements precise and purposeful. At their center stood a tall man in a dark, tailored suit. His expression was calm, controlled, familiar. My breath steadied as our eyes met. He stopped beside me. "Iris," he said quietly, his voice filled with concern. "Are you all right?" Devin frowned. "Who the hell are you?" The man looked at him with cool indifference. "My name is Lucas Yang," he said. He turned to me gently. "My sister." And in that moment, the laughter stopped. Silence fell over the hall. The laughter died instantly, replaced by uneasy whispers as every eye turned toward the man standing beside me. Lucas Yang stood tall and composed, his presence commanding without effort. Devin scoffed. "So what? She has a brother. Congratulations." Lucas didn't react. He simply removed his gloves, his gaze steady and unreadable. "Is this the man who struck you?" he asked quietly. "Yes," I replied. My voice didn't tremble. Lucas nodded once. No anger, No raised voice. Just a stillness that felt far more dangerous than rage. Devin laughed nervously. Look, whatever this is, it's a family matter. You don't belong here. Lucas met his eyes. You're correct. A pause. I don't belong here. He stepped forward, his presence shifting the air in the room. But you won't either. Murmurs rippled through the guests. Devin's mother straightened, her smile brittle. I don't know who you think you are, but this is a private event. Lucas reached into his pocket and produced a slim leather card holder. He handed a card to the wedding coordinator, who glanced at it and froze, her expression drained of color. She whispered something urgently to Devin's father, who read the card next. His confident smile vanished. Devin frowned. What is this? Lucas spoke calmly, his voice carrying across the silent hall. I'm the managing partner of Yang Global Holdings. Gasps spread through the room. His mother's smirk disappeared. Lucas turned to Devin, his expression unchanged. And the sole owner of the building you're standing in. The hall fell into stunned silence. Devin's face paled. Lucas's gaze hardened slightly. Now, he said quietly, let's discuss what happens next. The silence in the hall was suffocating. Devin stared at Lucas as if the ground had shifted beneath his feet. His confident smirk faltered, replaced by disbelief. You're bluffing, he said, forcing a laugh. This venue belongs to the Whitmore Group. Lucas regarded him calmly. It did, until last quarter. A ripple of whispers spread through the guests. Devin's father snatched the card from the wedding coordinator, scanning it again with trembling hands. His face drained of color. This can't be right, he muttered. Lucas said nothing. He didn't need to. Power spoke louder than anger. Devin's mother straightened, her voice sharp with irritation. Even if that were true, this is our son's wedding. You can't interfere. Lucas turned to her, his expression polite but unyielding. I'm not interfering, Mrs. Whitmore. I'm protecting my sister. The words settled heavily in the room. My parents stood behind me, stunned but proud, their silence filled with quiet dignity. For the first time that day, they were not standing alone. Devin scoffed, his pride wounded. This is ridiculous. Iris, tell your brother to leave. We're getting married. I met his gaze calmly. No, I said. His expression darkened. What did you say? There will be no wedding, I repeated. Gasps echoed through the hall. His mother stepped forward angrily. You ungrateful girl. After everything we've done for you, enough. Lucas said quietly. The single word silenced her. He turned to the wedding coordinator. Cancel the ceremony. The coordinator hesitated only a moment before nodding. Yes, Mr. Yang. Devin's face flushed with fury. You can't do this. Lucas met his eyes without emotion. I already have. And just like that, the wedding ended before it began. The hall erupted into chaos. Guests whispered in stunned disbelief as the wedding coordinator began instructing staff to dismantle the ceremony. Musicians lowered their instruments. The floral arrangements that had once symbolized celebration now stood as silent witnesses to humiliation. Devin's face flushed crimson. You can't cancel my wedding, he shouted. Lucas remained unmoved. It was never your wedding to control. Devin's mother stepped forward, her composure cracking. Do you know who we are? Lucas met her gaze calmly. Yes. A pause. That's why I came prepared. He gestured toward the entrance, where two legal representatives entered, briefcases in hand. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as they approached Lucas with quiet efficiency. Devin frowned. What is this supposed to mean? Lucas spoke evenly. Your family's company, Whitmore Holdings, is currently under investigation for financial misconduct, misuse of investor funds, fraudulent reporting. You should be receiving official notice shortly. Gasps echoed through the hall. That's absurd! Devin's father snapped, his voice shaking. Is it? Lucas replied, handing him a sealed envelope. You may want to read that. The man's hands trembled as he opened it. His face turned ashen. Devin looked between them, panic replacing arrogance. What did you do? Lucas's expression remained calm. Nothing. He turned slightly, his voice cold with certainty. You destroyed yourselves. Silence fell once more. I stood beside my brother, no longer humiliated, no longer powerless. For the first time that day, I felt the weight lift from my chest. Devin stared at me in disbelief. "You planned this?" he whispered. I met his gaze steadily. "No," I said. "You forced me to finish it." The whispers turned into chaos. Guests rose from their seats, murmuring as they checked their phones, the news already spreading beyond the walls of the grand hall. Devin's father stared at the document in his trembling hands, his face pale and slick with sweat. This is a mistake," he muttered. Lucas remained calm. "No, Mr. Whitmore. It's an audit." Devin looked between us, panic tightening his voice. "You can't ruin my family over a misunderstanding." Lucas's gaze was steady. "Your family ruined itself long before today." Devin's mother stepped forward, her composure shattered. "You have no right." "I have every right," Lucas said quietly. "You insulted my sister, you humiliated her, and you allowed your son to strike her." Silence fell again, heavy and suffocating. The words echoed across the hall like a verdict. Devin turned to me, desperation replacing arrogance. "Iris, tell him to stop. This is getting out of control." I met his eyes calmly. "You lost control the moment you raised your hand against me." His jaw tightened. "It was a mistake." "No," I said softly. "It was a revelation." Outside, flashing lights painted the hall's windows in red and blue. Gasps rippled through the crowd as authorities entered, their presence commanding and undeniable. Devin's father staggered back. "You called them?" Lucas shook his head. "No." He glanced at me. "I did," I said. Devin stared in disbelief. "You wouldn't." "I already have." As officers approached the Whitmore family, the truth settled over the room with quiet finality. The wedding had ended in silence, but their downfall had only just begun. The flashing lights outside painted the hall in shifting shades of red and blue. Officers escorted Devin's father toward the exit, his once proud posture reduced to a defeated shuffle. His mother stood frozen, clutching her pearls as whispers spread like wildfire through the guests. Devin turned to me, his composure shattered. "Iris, please," he said quietly, stepping closer. "Don't do this. We can fix it." I held his gaze, steady and unflinching. "Fix what?" I asked. "The insult to my parents? The humiliation? Or the moment you raised your hand against me?" His voice cracked. I lost my temper. "It didn't mean anything." "That's exactly why it meant everything," I replied. For the first time, he had no answer. Behind me, my mother stood silently, her eyes glistening with tears she tried to hide. My father's hand rested gently on her shoulder, his expression proud, yet heavy with emotion. They were no longer standing alone. They were standing with me. Devin swallowed hard. "Give me another chance." I looked at him, not as the man I once loved, but as the stranger he had revealed himself to be. "You had your chance," I said softly, "and you used it to hurt me." The words settled between us with quiet finality. Lucas stepped forward, his presence calm and protective. "It's time to go, Iris." I nodded. As we turned to leave, Devin's voice followed me, desperate and broken. "You'll regret this." I paused at the threshold, glancing back one last time. "No," I said quietly. "I'll remember it." And with that, I walked away, leaving the past behind me at the altar where it belonged. The grand doors closed behind me with a soft, final click. The laughter, the whispers, the humiliation, everything I had endured inside that hall faded into silence. Outside, the evening air was cool and steady, brushing against my skin like a promise of freedom. For the first time that day, I breathed, not as a bride, but as a woman who had chosen herself. My parents stood beside me, no longer overlooked, no longer humiliated. My mother's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, her hand gently squeezing mine. "You were so brave," she whispered. I shook my head softly. I wasn't brave. I was finally honest. My father smiled with quiet pride, the tension gone from his jaw. "You reminded them who you are." I glanced at Lucas, standing calm and composed beside us. His presence had not been loud or vengeful, only steady, unwavering, and protective. "Thank you," I said. He offered a faint smile. "You never needed saving, Iris." You only needed to be seen. The words settled gently in my heart. Days later, the story spread across headlines. An extravagant wedding halted, a powerful family exposed, and a bride who refused to remain silent. But the attention no longer mattered. What mattered was the quiet peace that followed. One evening, I stood with my parents beneath the soft glow of city lights, laughter replacing the silence that had once defined us. They were no longer standing in the shadows, and neither was I. I had walked down the aisle expecting a future. Instead, I walked away with something greater: my dignity, my voice, my freedom.